regardless of your religion or religions, if you like the NBA, then you like Christmas. We got a bunch of presents coming up for you folks. We have some specific betting advice, some general betting advice, a little bit of cup reaction, and then we got a nice Christmas gift all right here on the show with the ball that doesn't lie.
There's a shameless plug that begins each show, and it sounds like this. You should subscribe to my picks. This ball does not lie. Unless you're emailing me, then this ball doesn't lie.
Before we get too deep into all of the festivities of today's episode, as you know, this ball does NBA basketball betting predictions that you can subscribe to, and you're going to get them for free right now because I'm that kind of guy. In the early game, Cavs, Knicks, take the Cavaliers. The number I have right now is plus 6.5. I will be putting 1.82 units on that game, units rather than dollars. Convert that to whatever you want it to mean. In the second game of the day, the Spurs and the Thunder. We are going to ride the Spurs, people. They have won 2 in a row against the Thunder, and 9.5, the number that I see right now, is too much. This is a big one. These two teams are normally very predictable for the ball, so we are going to put 7.5 units on it, 7.54. In the next game, the Mavs, we are taking plus 8.5 over the Warriors, put 2.05 units on that game. In the later evening game on the East Coast, take the Lakers. They are getting 3.5 at home. That's 0.1 units, though. It's not a very confident game. Neither of those teams, the Rockets or the Lakers, have been very predictable for this ball this season, so we are going to be quite conservative with that pick. And in the last game of the day, you want the Nuggets instead of the Timberwolves. Take the Nuggets with the spread minus 3.5 and put 1.32 units on that bad boy. Okay, so we did specific betting advice. Now let's talk about some of the teams that you should keep an eye on if you want to make money going forward. Even if you haven't subscribed to the picks yet, I'm here to help you. I'm the ball that doesn't lie, and I care about the fans. That's why we're here, and that's why we're sharing all this info. So before we get into some of the teams that you need to write down, get out your little notepad and a little pen, or maybe a little pencil. I don't know what you write, or get your phone, whatever you want to do. These are some of the teams that have made us the most money if you're following my picks every single day. Let's go over the top 3 teams that are our favorites in the NBA. I have multiple favorite teams. Number 3, my third favorite team in the NBA, is the Washington Wizards. They've made us the third most money for a boring reason. They're just unfortunately not very good. My second favorite team in the NBA so far this season is the New York Knicks for the opposite reason. They're really good, and we're going to talk about them more in a minute. And my number 1 team in the NBA, my favorite team right now in the league is, you guessed it, the Memphis Grizzlies. Folks, sometimes you just can't explain things. I don't know why the Grizzlies have made this ball the most money so far this year, but for some reason the Grizzlies have been super predictable. So whatever you're doing down there in Memphis, keep it going. If you haven't subscribed yet, though, there are some teams that you should look out for, that you should in general be betting on or against, that could make you some money every night. And by the way, this is information that you could keep track of. These are the teams that have covered over 60% of their games that they have played this season, well over half. I'm just going to list them off in alphabetical order. The Hawks, they're boring, okay? I don't know why. I mean, I do know why no one talks about them. They're not interesting. The Celtics, they don't have Tatum on the team right now. I think people are just expecting not that much of them. I've already said they're too good to tank. Well, they cover quite a bit. You can bet on the Brooklyn Nets every single night. They stink, but they're not as bad as the spread has been suggesting so far to this point. The Pelicans, same reason as the Nets. Like I already mentioned, the Knicks, they have made this ball a lot of money because we know that they're very good. But they're better than the spread suggests, which is different from the Thunder to this point in the season. The Thunder are obviously very good, but the sportsbooks know that. And they are already working on ruining betting on our boys down in Oklahoma City. But that hasn't happened with the Knicks so far this year. You can take the Knicks every single night, and I think you would do pretty well for yourself. The Suns continue to cover. The Suns started out the year unbelievably hot. They couldn't not cover, even if they tried. They're starting to cool off a little bit, but they're still covering quite a bit. So I would say Phoenix is certainly in that list. And the last team that you should be betting on every single night that will make you a lot of money because they cover well over half of their games is the San Antonio Spurs. They're still better than people say they are, believe it or not. I think a lot of the narrative around the Spurs continues to be, well, they're up and coming. They're a young team. They're getting better. Well, they're here, and they're competing every single night, and they're covering most nights. So keep your eyes on these teams. I'm going to list them off again. The ones that you should, in general, be betting on every single night. The Hawks, the Celtics, Nets, Pelicans, Knicks, Suns, and Spurs. Now, in the same breath, there are some teams that can make you money by going against them. These are the teams that to this point in the season have covered less than 40% of their games. The Chicago Bulls, they're just not, unfortunately, they're not very good. The Cavs, they're a hot mess. I mean, they're barely over 500. They got a lot to figure out. Luckily for Cleveland, there's a lot of the season left to go. And I think they are too good to be this just discombobulated all season long. The Warriors cover well less than 40% of their games. I'm going to call that the Steph effect to this point. I think that people are expecting the Warriors to still be like they have been for, the entire 2010s at this point. But that team is obviously getting a little older, and the Warriors are not covering. Another team that doesn't cover, the Clippers. I don't know what else to say about the Clippers. I think a lot of ink has been spilled over the LA Clippers. The Kings, another team that never covers. And finally, our friends, the Washington Wizards. So to repeat that, the teams that cover less than 40% of their games, we got the Bulls, the Cavs, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Kings, and the Wizards. Now, again, I just listed off all these teams. This is not something that you people couldn't track out there in the world. Now, maybe you have like hobbies and friends and things to do, so you don't want to do that and you rely on this ball to tell you. That's fine, but it's not that hard to keep track of the teams that are doing well in the league. But if you want to know who's going to cover from night to night and you want to make over 350 units right now on Christmas Day, then you got to subscribe to the picks. Okay, enough sports business advice. Well, maybe just a little more sports business advice. Let's talk about one of the gifts that the NBA gave to us well before this magical holiday, and that is the NBA Cup. I know that there's a lot of mixed emotions out there about the Cup. I'm going to tell you right now, as the ball that doesn't lie, why the Cup is a good thing and why you should think of it that way as well. Okay, so first I want to focus on the Knicks. Like I said in the first episode of this show, I told you the Knicks were going to be good this year. They had a win in the Cup Finals that really good teams are able to pull off. They were down for a lot of the game. They made a push. They came back. They got the win in a big moment. And they got some offense from one of the players that stood out to this ball was OG Anunoby. I mean, obviously, we know him as a defender and a very athletic player, but, offense is not always the first thing on his mind. So the fact he came through in a big moment, I think, is a good sign. Like I said, only a little more sports business talk. Here is that for you. You officially have this ball's blessing to take the Knicks to win the Eastern Conference. Now, that's not a prediction. That is a bet, okay? Now, looking at the predictions so far this season and going off of the way that the Knicks have played, the East really appears to be a two-horse race between New York and the Pistons. If you want to hedge your bet, you can take the Pistons as well. This is where a little bit of your gut comes into play if you're trying to make some future money. But again, this is not my official prediction to win the East. That will come when the season ends. I'm just saying right now, here today, if you want to, you can take the Knicks to win the East because it really does look like they're going to be one of the two teams that will be competing for the crown. On the other side of the bracket, the Spurs were able to get a really big win in this tournament. I know that they didn't win the whole thing, but the fact that they were able to beat the Thunder in a big moment, I'm telling you, that's big for this team moving forward in the season. The way that Vassell and Castle played against the Thunder, and then honestly against the Knicks too, it left this ball wondering while the game was going on, when will the Knicks make a push to win this game? I mean, they did, But there were long stretches in that game where the Spurs were well in control, and I think that this was a great learning experience for San Antonio. And if for no other reason than that, that is why you, as a fan of basketball, should be in favor of the NBA Cup. Even if you're upset about the schedule and you don't understand the rules or you don't like the point differential, whatever, there's a million things you can point to that you don't like. The bottom line is that the NBA Cup has been a way to foreshadow who the good teams are going to be later in the season so far in the early tournament. Let's look at 2 seasons ago. The Pacers played the Lakers in the final game. A year later, Indiana's in the finals. Last year, the Thunder and the Bucks played in the NBA Cup finals. The Thunder obviously went on to win it all. This year, we see the Spurs and the Knicks, 2 teams that we knew were arriving at some point. I think that the roster of these 2 teams and their history in the playoffs these past few years, the Knicks would be a safer bet to get to the finals than the Spurs, certainly because the West is obviously a little bit more of a competitive conference as well. But if for no other reason than the fact that the Cup is an opportunity for teams to get to know themselves, to learn things about themselves, and then to go out and compete later on in the year and take some of those lessons that they got in those big moments, that's why you should be a fan of it as a fan. It's a good thing for the league to see guys out there competing and caring. When there's 82 games every single night, it's hard for them to do that. The NBA Cup this year was really entertaining, and the Spurs will have this ball watching them moving forward, especially around playoff time. Okay, so we talked about who's going to cover on Christmas Day. We talked about who's going to cover in general. We talked about the Cup. And now it's time for our final gift on this Ballidays edition of This Ball Does Not Lie. Now, on this show, we like to talk about sports, but sometimes sports doesn't like when you talk about it. To sort out all of the messiness, some of the insanity that's going on out there in the world of sports, we have our first ever guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the Golf Ball. A Golf Ball is joining us today. Golf Ball, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm so happy to be here. I mean, this is just rekindling old times, something we used to do together quite a bit. And it's great to be back in the studio.
We have some episodes that are older than most of your social media posts out there, kids.
Yep.
So, we're back in the saddle. We're here. And not only are we trying to make sense of what's going on in the world of sports, but we are talking sports ball. So we know, we don't just know ball, we are ball. We are ball. There's been a lot of conspiracies floating around. I'm going to pause, right there in terms of the world. But in the world of sports, we got a bunch of things going on that just aren't adding up. And it's because we have a lot of people with power, people with money, people who are in charge that quite honestly, are making some things happen that we just might not know about.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we make a distinction between the sport and the professional organizations that run these large-scale businesses that are, the NBA, the MLB, the NFL. These are big institutions that are meant to make money. And they are separate things from sport, which is filled with, joy. It's filled with camaraderie, it's filled with triumph and defeat and all these fantastic things that are part of the human experience. And so sports really are this grand analogy for the lived experience,
If I went outside right now and tried to play basketball, it wouldn't look like the NBA. No.
You'd have a great time.
I'd have a good time while I injure myself, but it would be fun while it happens.
Absolutely.
So we're going to talk about some of the things that are going on that we may not understand. We're going to talk about maybe who's saying them, maybe why they're being said, without necessarily endorsing them, unless that's your thing. Okay, I'm not trying to tell you what is or isn't your thing. I'm just trying to tell you that we're just we're interested in general.
Yes, absolutely. Just taking in the facts and maybe not so much the facts.
And maybe some other things too. We don't know. There's a lot happening out there. So, one of the biggest ones that is fuel for a lot of conspiracies, honestly, is pretty warranted. would be the Nico Harrison firing from the Dallas Mavericks. So last season, in case you were under a rock or something, Luka got traded from the Mavs to the Lakers. The Mavericks, a few weeks later, got the number 1 pick, and they got Cooper Flagg as a result. And then this season, Nico Harrison was fired. There's a lot of things that we can guess about this situation, but the facts are the facts. The Mavs may, for some reason or another, just are unsatisfied with something. Maybe is that, am I going too far in making that assumption?
Sure. I mean, they definitely have a reason to fire him. It's not like they're just making it up out of the blue. And I mean, it's probably not a good trade. We're talking
Right.
Luka. I mean, Anthony Davis is not. He's not Luka, and you know, to give away such a core member of the team as such a trying time for the organization is a bold move, to say the least.
Right.
So we have to wonder, what is the reasoning behind the trade in the first place? Who really wanted that trade to be made is the question.
If we're going to talk about why this could have happened, right? I mean, one of the reasons that we can point to, the Mavs are just not a well-run franchise.
This could absolutely be a case of just poor decision making. May not have been anything conspiratorial, but it does look like a very strange decision, from the outside.
For that reason, because it looks like such a strange decision, I mean, I think that people are making kind of a leap to come up with some conspiracies that, I mean, I say a leap, but because we're not really sure what happened, people are just trying to make sense of what's going on. It's kind of weird with the timing, right? How Luka gets traded and then a few weeks later, they end up with the number 1 pick. It's just a little curious, right? When the Mavs didn't even have the best odds of getting the number 1 pick. There were a number of teams that were worse than them going into the draft. The fact that he ended up with the Lakers, which is a massive market, right, with a ton of fans, they're a very popular team. Maybe the Mavericks were offered, if they traded Luka, they would be rewarded by being able to pick Cooper Flagg.
Sure.
I mean, again, I don't know anything, but I can see why people would think that.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of reason why an organization would want to, beef up another team. Like, who wouldn't want to see Luka and LeBron and a star-studded team playing another star-studded? Like, the whole super team era was big. People loved the super team era.
Yeah,
and maybe coming back to that, the NBA might be wanting to, see those gains again in viewership or whatever, but it could be just, a string of bad luck or a string of good luck for the Mavs that they got the first pick after giving up their, best player. But it does seem oddly coincidental, like what are the odds that they're going to make a crazy brash decision like that and then immediately follow up being rewarded in the random lottery?
Luka was out of shape. He needed to be traded because he didn't have a good work ethic. Maybe he didn't get along with the team. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he didn't. But that doesn't hold a lot of weight for me because they went to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying the guy is incredibly talented.
Right.
And he's a player. I think he's a very enjoyable fan experience. He's a fan favorite type player.
It isn't adding up. I think that if you're not a Laker fan, this might be appealing. If you're I hate to do this, but if you're like a Hornets fan, or like a team that doesn't have a lot to look forward to, or a Wizards fan, then maybe you want to talk about how the NBA is conspiring to make some of the bigger markets better. And this conspiracy, I mean, this is on a silver platter for you.
It seems too odd to be just a natural state of affairs. It seems too odd to just be a normal trade and then a random first pick and all of the stuff. They didn't really, like you said, their cover story wasn't super convincing. It seems like they're just trying to sweep this whole thing under the rug, but who knows? We don't have any information on that, so maybe new information will come out, but seems unlikely.
I mean, for now, I guess I have to believe that the Mavs are a poorly run franchise and that they traded Luka away because he, whatever, it wasn't a good fit. But if there were information that came out years from now that talked about the NBA conspiring to give the Mavs the number 1 pick, I would not have a hard time believing that at all. What happened this season with the Mavs that they didn't see coming? I mean, did they expect to trade Luka away for Anthony Davis and to become a better team?
I don't know.
Right? Like I'm not an NBA GM, and I would not have expected that to happen.
Yeah.
Another conspiracy that I heard recently that, I mean, this is not to the level of Luka, but it's another thing that this comes up every once in a while when a player's unhappy. And it has to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo, that one. Recently, he got injured, and he also kind of around this time has been making a lot of buzz about how he wants to be traded to the New York Knicks. It's one of those like 1 to 2 week injuries that kind of could linger for a long time. Maybe it won't last that long. It just has a lot of people raising questions about, how hurt he is, which one is truer. It's one of those things that we may never know.
Yeah. And I think this is kind of a symptom of sports becoming, or at least these organizations becoming so big, making so much money. Players don't necessarily want to play to play. They want to play for the teams they want to play for, and they want to play, for the money they want to make, and they want to play. They don't necessarily want to play to be the best player out there, or the winning team out there, or just to win all the time out there. And I think you see that a little bit more in the NBA, maybe more so in a few other sports, but I think in the MLB it's also probably pretty prevalent. But like when you go back and you watch like college basketball, every one of those kids want to be the best. They want to play as hard as they can. They want to win all the time. That's all they want to do, and you can see it in the gameplay. So I think as the money gets bigger, you kind of it's a superstar kind of mentality that you just don't get in other places. And is it a little annoying to see? Yeah, a little bit. It can bother the plebs of the world like you and me a little bit, but I think it's just a pretty typical symptom of money entering as such large quantities into these organizations.
People plan things. Employees do things when they don't want to work. Customers do things when they want stuff for free. You don't necessarily have to be a sports ball to understand that. I mean, one of the stories that comes to mind for me, and like I said, we've been making podcasts for a long time, people. I'm gonna completely bleep out this person's name or the situation because I'm not doing that to people. Okay? Do you remember when didn't bring his jersey when we played?
Oh my god.
He didn't want to play. Like sometimes you just don't want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's plenty, and when you're in high school sports, there's plenty of kids who are not playing for the right reasons. They don't want to be there. And that's how it is, That's not everyone wants to do it, but yeah, it's that mentality. Yeah.
Right.
It's that mentality.
Sometimes you just don't want to play. And maybe Giannis just doesn't want to play for the Bucks anymore. He might just be tired of it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens if Giannis becomes a Knick. Maybe there will be more information someday. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons also why this is a problem, and this is a hill that this ball will, deflate on, is the fact that no one understands why the Knicks can't afford, another superstar. And by that, I mean Giannis or someone like that, because they have rules that have to do with like the first apron and the second apron and the trade exception and there's a bonus for this guy. And the bottom line is they can't afford him. But when you turn on a lot of sports talk these days, you basically have to have like a minor in business to understand the reason why the Knicks can't afford him. And that's just not good, not just for basketball, but just sports in general.
Yeah, it's been like lawyerized.
Right.
Such a strange way, It's like that's what I'm talking about when this is the difference between the sport and these giant organizations, And you slowly were getting stuff like that with like the NIL and stuff.
Oh yeah,
creeping into college sports and all that. It is tough because it's if you want to be a fan and if you want to understand what's going on and do too well in high school math, it's going to be real hard for you. And that's not, that's not your fault at all. That is just a outcome of, again, how much money is just being pumped into these players, the players' organizations, the managers,
No, it's true. I mean, there's a lot of money changing hands, and they make it complicated so that the best players, the wealthiest people, can just make more of it.
Yeah. So everyone gets their cut. They make sure in each line of the contract, every single person gets their little percentage, and yeah.
Aside from the basketball betting scandals that hopefully don't continue to come out, but they probably will. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
One of the guys that has been in the news for a long time is Phil Mickelson. The guy likes to gamble.
Yes, yeah. It's well known that he has a large hankering for waging bets, and he probably has a sizable amount of debt, which to me is always a little bit hilarious.
Right.
Because this guy is a multiple major champion. He has made a lot of money in his golfing career. So the fact that he has gambling debts it's a bit silly to me, but I'm not in his shoes. I could never understand what Phil Mickelson is going through and what he's thinking, and nor do I particularly hope to all the time, because he is a bit of a character. There are many questions. There are many speculations that he signed with Liv in the Saudis to pay off a lot of this gambling debt. And he seems very intent on working with them and on continuing the brand and getting Liv, which in terms of Phil, so the gambling debt with Liv. And now there's new information about him possibly being on some sort of insider trading.
Yeah. I mean, I encourage everyone to go watch a show that is really good. Pablo Torre Finds Out.
Yes.
I'm not going to bring up anything that he doesn't already know. I know nothing. We know nothing. So Phil Mickelson, there's no reason to sue us.
Yes. That's right.
He recently invested in a company called Sable Offshore, which in itself seems to be a bit of a gamble. It's an oil pipeline type business that apparently needs some kind of government intervention to even be allowed to take place.
Yes.
So even, while he's not gambling on sports, he's taking a gamble.
Yes.
It may not be on the field, but it's with his money nonetheless. And I mean, there's definitely, been a lot of speculation about, like you said, him potentially going to Live to pay off his gambling debts. And I mean, some of his more recent actions that, like I said, Pablo Torre has been able to uncover really back that up, that he's a guy that likes to throw his money around.
Yes. And one of the craziest things about the Sable Offshore deal is that he sent out a text, allegedly, that admitted that he was part of some sort of investor meeting that was receiving information about a possible rise in stock price that was going to hit before the market opened. So he had known beforehand about information that was not yet public. Why was he in an investment group knowing about, the trades before they were, before the stock was going to go up and stuff like that? So maybe digging yourself a little too deep in some of these areas, Phil, but, we wish you the best.
These two talking sports balls wish you the best, Phil Mickelson.
Absolutely.
We are, I would say I'm a fan. We are certainly rooting for you and you to be an entertaining figure in golf.
I love Phil Mickelson. He's one of my favorite golfers. He's one of the most creative golfers ever to play. And he could have been the best golfer in the world if he wasn't playing at the same time that the best golfer of all time was playing.
Right.
So it's a bit unfortunate for him, but I mean, he's done so much for golf. He's a very entertaining figure. I don't want him to end up in jail for 25 years or whatever. I hope he manages to get away from this somehow. Liv is having its own problems, and they may not be able to function too far in the future. They've had this whole, debacle with the PGA Tour. They're trying to be the counter to the PGA Tour, trying to bring new people into the game. But at the same time, they're not really doing what's important for the players to get into, major championships. And I think that's the real problem, is, the major championships don't look at Live as a real league, as a real golf tour. And the reason is they don't really have like a way to get on the tour. Everyone kind of is just given tour status, you know, and they're given payouts. It's not like they're competing to get onto the tour to play. So it's not necessarily representation of the best players out there. And that's kind of the big problem. And they did something very funny recently, which I think it was supposed to be a way to respond to this. Like, the questions from the majors about, is this tour legitimate or not? Because Live is LIV, which is the Roman numeral for 54. And that stands for 54 holes.
Oh.
Because originally it was 3 days. So 3 days times 18 is 54 golf holes.
Okay.
Normal PGA Tour and majors are 4 days. So it's 72 golf holes. So they wanted to speed up the tournament and make that, a new thing. And they have decided to move to a 72-hole format.
Oh.
Which is ironic because their name is the Roman numeral for 54. So it's not really clear what they're trying to do anymore. Are they going to fully rebrand? Are they going to pursue this, the world golf ranking points that they need, like the system to get into these majors so their players can get more representation in the majors and maybe get more money? But who knows? They're having a bit of an identity crisis at the moment. So Phil is going to have to work with them and try to figure something out for everyone, Right.
And I mean, it's a problem. It's an identity crisis for Liv that is kind of, boomeranging back to them from the fact that a lot of these players that have gone to Liv obviously decided to leave the PGA, if I'm correct about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of them made the choice knowing that they would not be allowed back on the PGA Tour to take these paychecks to go play what a lot of them considered to be more of a retirement tour. And I think that's, some of the younger players looking for the bigger paychecks may not have suspected that as much, but some of the, the Phil Mickelsons, the Dustin Johnsons, the Bubba Watsons, they're probably just looking at the end of their career on the PGA Tour and seeing well, I'm really going to have to, play some fantastic golf to keep up with the young players if I want to make a paycheck. So I think a lot of the younger Live players who went looking for, money and some extra, competition in a new way kind of got duped a little bit by that. And they kind of end up in a position where they can't really make it into the majors and they can't really get back on the PGA Tour. So I think there's some talks going back and forth between the Tour and Live about possibly getting some player back and forth going. But yeah, it's been a weird couple of years in the professional golf world because of this divide. Yeah,
it's just a changing sports landscape. We see it in college sports, we see it in golf. It doesn't make things easy on the fan.
No.
It's all very complicated.
No. Yeah, and because as a fan, you just want to watch the best players compete at the highest level, playing their hardest. I think that's what everyone else wants.
I would say so.
And I feel like it's very rare that we get to see that nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, regardless of whatever's going on, when we have the golf ball on, we got to talk golf. So
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's been a fun year of conspiracies. If conspiracies are fun, I guess they would be.
Yeah, they are. Of course they're fun.
Of course they're fun.
Fun to talk about. They're not fun to devote your life to, people.
No. Again, we're not endorsing. We're not telling you, hey, check out, you should believe this conspiracy. We're just saying they exist.
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of crazy storylines out in the world, and it's fun to check them out, especially sports, because there's not a lot riding on it. This is
right.
Well, I guess it does matter because they're pretty big, these organizations.
Yeah,
they're starting to get a little big. But
regardless of how big they are, your favorite talking sports balls will be here to help you figure out whatever comes next. Golf ball, happy holidays. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.